Welcome back to another video. If this is your first time here and you want to learn web development and become a better coder, start now by subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Alright, welcome back to part 6 of HTML and CSS Basic series, and in this part we'll start off on the codingexercises.com website with this simple gray square. Now this is not how the website looks. I've actually changed it using Chrome developer tools or dev tools, which we can access by pressing the F12 key, and to turn it off we can press the F12 key again, or we can simply right click and then click inspect, or we can press the Ctrl-Shift-I or Command-Shift-I. Regardless of how we get here, that's what we need to use. The console has to do with JavaScript, so we'll press the escape key to close it because we're interested in the elements and the styles panels. The elements panel shows the HTML structure of our page, and the styles panel shows the actual styles that are implemented. And of course we already have some styles built in here because there is a CSS file that is loading when we load this website. Now the reason why this website is empty is, as I've already mentioned, I've used some JavaScript to remove everything and then inject this box right into the DOM. And the box that you're looking at right here is this one here. So we've got some basic styles, property value pairs of width, height, background, and so on. But that's not the topic of this video, because our goal is to discuss, well, actually even to understand what the box model is. So in order to do that, we'll click the computed tab here, and we'll see this little thing that is actually very interactive and a wonderful tool that is available in modern browsers like Chrome. So basically the box model is a way for the browser to describe additional information related to each of the elements on the page. And each element has its own box model, right? So if we go over to the body element, which is kind of like wrapping all the other content inside the page, this body element has its own settings for the box element, right? Including the content, its size, width and height, padding, if there's any, borders, if there are any, margins, so on. But now let's look into this div that we've added interactively to our web page, and let's start with the beginning. As we've already seen, we've got the width and height of 100 pixels, and that's the content. So we start from inside of the box and we progress to the outside of the box using our box model. Now we've got 100% width, 100 pixels width and 100 pixels height. And then if we wanted to add some padding to the left hand side, we can simply double click with the left mouse button and type a number, let's say 50 pixels, and then press the enter key, and the padding is now 50 pixels, right? We could also add a border of, for example, 10 pixels, and that would be adding a border of left that is 10 pixels wide. Of course, as we already learned, that's not enough. We also need to have border, well, let's just use the shorthand, 10 pixels solid gray, and now we can even turn this one off. And when we turn back the computed one, we can see that this has been added to the box model for the border property. So if we type 50, the border is going to get a lot wider, but we can also affect how content works. If we, for example, type 500, then the width is suddenly going to be 500 pixels, and we can even type 500 for the height, and we'll again get a square, but this time it's much wider and taller. And if we go back to the styles, we'll see this change right here. Alright, so besides the padding and the border, we can also add the margins. So if we add a margin, let's say 20 on the left, and then we can see that it's actually moved from the left edge of the screen. Let's narrow down our box back to 100 by 100. In the content area, let's lower the padding to 20 pixels, for example, but this time on each side, and this is going to affect all the sides of our element. And for the margin, let's say 100, here we'll have 0, and here let's say 20. We can also, when we double click, just press the up arrow on our keyboard to increment everything by 1 pixel. If we press Shift and then hold the up arrow, it's going to move it by 10 pixels, and if we press the Control key and the up arrow, it's going to move it by 100 pixels. So either the up arrow to go right or the left or the down arrow, sorry, to go left. So these are all the basic commands that we can use and combine. And now when we hover over the margin, we can say this whole element takes up the content, the padding, the borders, and the margin. And if we added another element, which is really easy, we simply go right click on our div, we go copy element, then go over the body, right click, and actually we can't paste it like this, but we can press Ctrl V to paste another one. And now we've got two identical divs, and the wonderful thing about Chrome at least is that in this browser when we hover over the element and we've got the computed turned on and we've got all these interactive ways to add padding, border and margin, once we hover over it in the elements, we can also see this highlight of blue, green, orange, and so on. So this gives us a hint as to which part of the box model takes up which amount of space. So this is a great tool that helps us work easier with the box model in the browsers. Now, if we go back to styles here, we can't see the box model interactively like we had before, but what we can do is see the actual styles that are implemented on each of the elements on the web page. And this gives us a chance to really get into the details and experiment with different values, right? So for example, with the width here, if we press the Shift key and then press the down arrow key on our keyboard, we can see the element styling getting updated right now in the real time. Same thing goes for any other property that we have, including the background. We can say orange or whatever. Padding left, we can change it to as much as we want or as little as we want. Border is the same thing, and so on and so forth. It takes maybe a little bit of practice with the Control Shift key, up arrow, down arrow, or just double clicking and typing the actual value that we want. But it's pretty easy to understand, pretty straightforward, and it really tremendously helps us in building website layouts. So that's it for this video. We've covered the box model in quite some depth here. And we've also discussed how to interact with the DevTools, at least with the Elements panel, and with the Styles and computed tabs in the Styles panel. So that's it for this video, and in the next one we'll be discussing CSS positioning.